Good morning, thanks for tuning in. It's going to be a quick video. Behind me, 2016 F150, you guessed it, needs a new vacuum hub. So we're going to replace that. Also the wheel bearing will be replaced as well. First thing we want to do is jack the vehicle up, put it on jack stands, and pull this front tire off. So we want to turn the wheel so we can get access to our brake caliper bracket. We want to pull that off and just suspend it out of the way. So we can take a screwdriver, pop it in between the rotor and the caliper, and just kind of pull on it a little. And that'll give us some slack in between the rotor and the brake pads, easier to pull off and put back on. 21 millimeter for the caliper bolts. There's one on top, one on the bottom, and this whole unit will just come off and be suspended out of the way. We're going to pull this off first real quick. It's a 10 millimeter. That's for the brake line and hoses and stuff. And then this other one, 8 millimeter. And that's for our wheel speed sensor. So these are just kind of available to move around. We'll pull this out of its little space for the wheel speed sensor. Now we'll pull these off. Probably in your way, but these are on there super tight, so breaker bar or a really hefty impact is a good idea. There's one. There's two. And I'll finish it off with the impact. And these will get Loctite going back in. And now our rotor can come off as well. Now we're going to pull off our wheel speed sensor. It's a 5mm Allen. 3/16 Allen is pretty close, but it is just a little loose in there. Pull that up and out. And go wipe it off real good. Let's just set that aside. Then we want to pull this little cap off. It's just like an old school hubcap for like a front wheel drive vehicle. You may be familiar with, just smaller. But it comes off with a screwdriver or whatever you got to just pull it off, just a little cap. That reveals our bolt, 15 millimeter. And again, we'll want to use Loctite if we're reusing this bolt as well. So this is for our axle. Push on it, make sure the axle can move in there. Now we want to pull off our upper ball joint. This will allow the knuckle to slide forward or outwards, giving us our room for our CV axle to slide out. 18 millimeter. There's not enough room for me to get power tools in there, so if you have a ratchet or a ratcheting wrench, that'll really help. Now I'm going to straighten the wheel so we can pull our tie rod off. Our tie rod is a 21 millimeter. All right, that'll come out. This one just popped out. If you need, you can tap on the knuckle. That vibration usually is enough to pop this out of its little spot. Then we're going to do the same thing to the upper ball joint. Just tap on the knuckle, get that separated. And now our whole knuckle should be able to slide forward. And you may have to hold the CV axle while you do it. Let me bring you around. You can see we have these hoses for the vacuum hub. So there's not enough slack on here at the moment. You can, let me show you, there's another little connector here you can pull on and get that separated. That may give you a little more slack, but we want this CV axle to come out. I'm getting ahead of myself. We want to unbolt the vacuum hub first. There's these 7mm, I believe. or 8 mil. They are 8mm. 1, 2, 3 of them. We'll just unbolt those. There we go. And then this will do that. Now we can pull the whole thing out. There, that's what we want to do. And then we can pull the wheel hub off of the axle, just like that. So this is the part we're replacing. We're also replacing the wheel bearing. So I'll get some things cleaned up real quick, re-angle you. So at this point, getting the wheel bearing out, it's 4 bolts here, 2, 3, 4, 18mm, and they come right out. And then we may have to tap on it depending on how, not seized, but like locked in. Yeah, I guess seized. It is to the knuckle. We may have to tap on this back. But that's what's fastening and holding it in. Now you can see it separating from the knuckle, just like that. So now we want to clean the front of the knuckle off the best that we can. We can use a scraper, wire brush. I'd be careful getting a wire brush inside though. You don't want to score that out. There are seals and O-rings and stuff that go inside the knuckle. Yeah, but this outside, you know, that's fine. Use a wire brush. You just want to make sure that there's not a lot of gunk or buildup so that when the new bearing goes on, it sits on flush. And we want to do the same thing to the back. Come to the back, we just want to wipe this out really good where the new vacuum hub is going to be seated. Also all over the CV axle as well. We just want to clean that all up really good. And that's it. Oh, and then on our vacuum hub, we want to pull off the hose because that's going to be transferred over to the new one. And that's it. And then we're ready for installation. So we're going to put the new hub in first, and there's a little O-ring on the new hub. We want to put a little silicone paste or some kind of lubricant on it so it inserts and doesn't damage that. It comes with a new wheel speed sensor, so that's great. We'll disconnect the other one from the harness. And I believe that's it. The bolts we're going to reuse, we're going to use Loctite on them. Just remember the wheel speed sensor goes in the up direction. I'm going to put the bolts in dry just to snug everything up. And then I'll pull one out at a time and put the Loctite on it. And those are torqued to 129 foot-pounds. If you're able to do it now, by all means do it. You can do it later after the knuckle's back on. All right. That was a little challenging, but doable. And then when I'm done torquing stuff, I like marking it. That way, when I'm all done, I can just do a quick visual and know whether or not I torqued down what I should have torqued down or tightened what I should have tightened. Now we'll get out our new locking hub or vacuum hub. We just want to be very careful to keep this clean as possible. Make sure our surface is clean. Put it on the hub first, or the CV axle first. Then that whole thing over the wheel. Okay. Straighten our knuckle out. All right, now we'll put those little bolts in the back. Not sure how much you can see, but put our little bolts in. Gonna lightly snug those down and suck them in. So those are torqued to 106 inch-pounds. All right, so now we can push our axle through all the way. Put our axle nut on. Let me move you around. Now our axle nut is getting Loctite. Reason for that is because this is a lock nut, and Ford recommends replacing that nut because of its one-time lock ability. So Loctite kind of takes place of a new lock nut. So that's why we use Loctite. Now this isn't torqued very much. I'm just gonna suck it in. There we go, bottomed out. Now we'll put our knuckle on the upper ball joint. So we just want to line it up, put it in. We'll have to use a pry bar on the top. Just a long pry bar to push our knuckle down. Oop. Let's do that again. There we go. Put that nut on. Now if you mix up your nuts, it's the smaller of the two. The tie rod is a bigger nut. And again, we'll want Loctite because this is a lock nut. So let's not forget that. The upper ball joint is 46 foot-pounds. Okay, it's not that much. Mark it. The tie rod we can put in. Same thing, using Loctite. And that is torqued to 85 foot-pounds. So our axle nut is 30 foot-pounds. Put a pry bar in between to hold it. And 30 foot-pounds really isn't that much. All right, mark it. All right, so we want to put our vacuum hose back on the back of the vacuum hub. I'm going to pull the wheel speed sensor completely off the harness, the old one, and then we'll plug in our new one. After I do that, I'll do that off camera because it's just quick and you know how to do it. Then we'll put the brakes back on and take it for a spin. All right, so got the wheel turned again. So we have access, we'll put our and then we'll just take a lug nut, put it on the bottom, and thread it all the way down just to hold our rotor in place. And that locks it in. And it's just easier. It's not moving on us when we put our brake caliper back on. Make sure that your hose isn't twisted. And it should just slide right on. There we go. Put our bolts in. And again, these are getting a little bit of Loctite. And these are torqued to 184 foot-pounds. All right. Pull this lug nut off, we'll put our tire on. All right, there you go. That's how you can replace an IWE, an integrated wheel end, on an F-150. These vacuum hub assemblies have been around for a very long time. They've gone through some minor changes and adjustments. So I'm not sure all the years. I'll put that in the link or in the video description how many years that this spans over. This is a 2016. We did replace the vacuum hub and the wheel bearing at the same time. If you only need to replace one or the other, then this video at least does both. So just choose the section that you need to do. Other than that, test drive it around. Make sure that whatever reason you decided to replace these parts for is gone, whether it's a noise or something not working with the four-wheel drive. Make sure all that works on the test drive. And I believe that's it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.